Hey everybody, my name is Jack Wallen and I am here to once again talk to you about something that could be game-changing or it could mean squadoosh. Either way, I'm glad you're here to listen to me blather on about this. And what is this? This is the idea that good art must come from suffering. Now, I have a lot of experience with this. Partially because I've been an artist pretty much all of my life, since elementary school. So, since the 70s. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm old. Oh boy. So, what does it mean that good art must come from suffering? Here's a really kind of a pop culture example of that. So you know the band Stone Temple Pilots, right? Well, they released their first two albums, amazing, right? Gave rock and roll a nice kick in the pants that it needed. And then Scott Weiland got clean. And everybody started thinking that all of their albums after that were subpar. They said, he's only able to write good music when he's high. Now look, there were some really good songs on Stone Temple Pilots 4. There really were. So I think that this idea that great art only comes from suffering. Please understand that these are my opinions, and this is how I feel about the subject. So if you feel differently, that's wonderful, whatever works for you. But I believe the idea that great art can only come from suffering is perpetuated by artists. Because I'm going to confess a little something here, I think. And again, this is just for me. And this is also me kind of from my past. But artists like to wallow in their suffering. And part of that is because they believe the idea that out of that suffering will come something great. Oh boy, you can see where that would lead. Now, I will also say, because again, this is me, my opinion, I will also say that artists are a rather sensitive bunch of people. We are. And that realm with that the suffering thing, for a lot of us, it's kind of comfortable. And let me try to explain why. Because I this is why I believe it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy that the idea of good art has to come from suffering. As an actor, I always wanted to play those roles that were just, yeah, they dwelled within those that despair and sorrow and misery, because I thought that successfully portraying that made me come off as a better actor. Because, I mean, let's face it, anyone can do joy, right? Right? Joy's the easy one. Happiness is easy to experience. Because it's happy, it's joy. You get into that place and you want to stay there. But when all of a sudden you're in the pits of despair, it's like it's a different kind of energy, and it's not easy. So it's like when Oscar time comes around, you know, those actors that have played the roles that of the characters that suffer and are you just have to live in misery. You know that they're better, they're 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 so close. They're going to get that Oscar. More so than the actor that plays a character who's just happy and joyful. Because anybody can do happy and joy. Not everybody can do suffering. So an actor gets a hold of that idea and they run with it, and they start to believe that suffering is going to get them someplace. And then you have the whole Stanislavski method thing. You add that into it, and it kind of becomes a whole other sort of snowball that's rolling down a giant hill and collecting everything in its path. It's exhausting. When I was in undergraduate school, and I went to a small private undergraduate school, and the department of theater was very small. There were 2 teachers, and one of them really, he was way past his prime. And when I started school there, he wasn't a very good teacher. He was a very, very good person. He was just not a good teacher. And I didn't learn much. So while I was in undergraduate school, I realized that I had to explore myself. I had to find my own way. And in that process, I fell into that trap, that same trap, that if I'm going to be a really good actor, I need to know how to suffer. Because those are the roles that are going to get me someplace. And so I did. And for example, when we did a production of Count Dracula, I played Renfield. I knew that I had to find new depths of just misery and despair so I could tap into that madness that Renfield has. So I actually lived in the attic of the theater for the entire week before the show opened, just so I could tap into that. And whether or not it worked is subjective, because, I mean, the reviews were good. Everybody loved my performance. But here's the thing. And here's why I think that there's a problem with this idea. People are capable of all emotions. And on a daily basis, we run the gamut from sorrow to joy and everything in between. And we might just go up and down throughout the day. And we always have those moments. I have those moments all the time. And if I were to portray a person coming from a point of sorrow, I might be blind to the idea that that person could experience joy. Think about Renfield. Let's just think about Renfield. He wants nothing more than Dracula's approval. And to kind of get down to that place, sure, you might need to explore some dark places, but what about the fact that when he believes that Dracula has finally accepted him, imagine the joy that that little guy would experience. It would be unbridled. He finally achieved this ultimate goal. The thing that he was certain that would help him to live forever. And escape the world, escape the skin that he was born in. That would be joyous. But if I were to approach that role with just that one note, I would be doing it a disservice. Now, I honestly believe, and when I teach acting, I talk about this all the time, that every artist, be it painters, actors, musicians, writers, sculptors, dancers, whatever, they all have a palette from which they work, like a toolkit. And on that palette is a rainbow of colors, and each of those colors represents something different. There might be joy, there might be happiness, there might be despair, ennui, doubt, frustration, anger, all of that. And when we create something, we're not just dipping our brush into that one color. Because if we do that, if we keep going back to that one color, let's say we decided that this art that we're creating has to come from a place of sorrow, otherwise it's not going to be any good. So we've associated sorrow with one color. So we just keep dipping back into that one color, and we keep painting and we keep painting. Now what you create might be beautiful. You might take that one color and have created something that's just fantastic, but it's still just one color. So it's going to be one-dimensional. I mean, you can't add shade. You can't even add shading if you're just using one color, because the shade would be a variation of that color. And so I think that to be a great artist, you have to be capable of accessing all of those colors on that palette at any given time. Because the arc of your character, be it on the stage, TV, film, the page, whatever, the arc of that character has to go all over the place. It's not just a smooth ride up or a smooth ride down or a smooth flat line. It's just all over the place, because that's how we are as people. Chart your day. Chart the emotions that you go through of your day. Maybe tomorrow you try this. Just every time you hit an emotion, think about it. Go, oh, I was sad right then. Oh, I was really happy right then. And all of a sudden you'll understand how this roller coaster ride that we take is filled with different emotions. So that palette that you use throughout your normal day is quite wide. And so why would you want to limit yourself as an actor by using just one color, one note? Even John Cage, a minimalist composer, used more than one note. So back in those early days, I didn't actually realize this until much later in my career as an artist, as a creator. But in those early days, what I was doing, I think this is really important for artists. What I was doing back then was I was leading my art. I would say, okay, if this is going to be great, it's got to come from a place of sorrow. So let's just get sad and we'll go from there. So I would lead my art around and kind of force it to go into different places, but it was always coming from that one spot. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I went to graduate school, and all of those bad habits were kind of ripped away from me, and I started to discover something new. And had it not been for that discovery in graduate school, I don't think I would be where I am today. And that discovery was very simple. I had to let my art lead me. So I have this big palette, this big wide range, this rainbow of colors here on this palette. And as an artist, I had to look at that palette and say, I have to access every one of those colors for what I'm about to create. Every one of them. So then I would just say, okay, art, lead me, take me on a journey. I've got my stuff. I've packed my bags. I've got everything I need. Take me on the journey. I'm ready. And so when I would allow the art to lead me, I didn't come at it from a bias. So I was able to just throw every color at it that was necessary until I was able to come up with the right combination of colors that would create that character. Or if I'm writing a book, I would have all of those colors at my whim, and I could use those colors to paint different people. And that's key, especially as a writer. If you say, okay, I'm going to write this book and I want it to be great. So I'm going to come at it from a point of despair or sorrow or whatever. But you've got 20 characters in this book. Now, what if you come from that point of sorrow and you write all 20 of those characters? Those characters are going to be variations on that one shade. That's not how the world works, because the world is filled with every color. So if I'm writing a book, I have to just come from a place of truth. And that, my friends, is where it's all at. Instead of coming from a place of sorrow, you come from a place of truth. Because in that truth, you are able to access the wide range of emotions, of colors, of everything you need to create this world, these characters, and do so in such a way that they are believable. And that holds true for every form of art, for every genre, for everything. If you come from a place of truth, people are going to buy into it. If you come from a place of tragedy and sorrow, you might very well be capable of creating something great, or you might wind up creating something that's kind of self-indulgent. And when you come from a place of falsehood, you're going to be less likely to create honest art. And personally, I think that is the key to making great art, is truth. So instead of coming from a place of sorrow, you come from a place of truth. It's like some of the greatest songs ever written were written from a place of truth within the artist, an experience they've had. Same thing holds true with books. Some of the greatest books ever written were written from the point of view of or written from an author's experience, from a point of truth that they could then expand on, even fiction. And so I think it's time that we kind of let go of that idea of the suffering artist. Now, of course, there's going to be struggling artists because, the world doesn't really value art as much as it used to. So we're all going to struggle financially and sometimes socially, because a lot of artists are somewhat antisocial. I'm not talking about me. No, I'm social. A friend gave me a t-shirt once that said, "I'm an antisocial butterfly." Me? Look, when I was writing, I've said this before, when I was writing Frankenstein Theory, it was when my father was passing away. And I was at the hospital one night. I stayed at the hospital. He was in his room sleeping, and I was there, and I had my laptop, and I decided I was going to try to write. And I don't think I could have been I couldn't have been dragged further down, because my father, the one family member that I truly loved, was dying. I opened up my laptop and I started to write, and I realized that I was writing the scene where Dr. Frankenstein brings the monster to life. And it just hit me so hard. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't write this. I can't write anything right now because this is just too much. And then when I look back on it, I realized that had I gone ahead and written that, I would have missed something very important. And that is the absolute joy that Dr. Frankenstein experiences when he brings the monster to life. When he shouts, "It's alive, it's alive." That there was no sorrow in that. That's joy, unbridled joy. And I would not have been able to reach that at that point. And I'm just one of those artists that I have to be able to, I have to experience what the characters that I create experience. And I don't mean that literally. Like right now I'm writing the story about people that have colonized the moon and all this other stuff. And I can't colonate the moon. I can't colonize the moon. Colonate? Sometimes your brain says a word and it's like, is that a word? I don't know. So that's not my reality, but that doesn't mean I can't experience what they're going through. Sometimes when I'm writing a scene, when I'm done, I'm done. I'm exhausted. Mentally and emotionally, I can't do anymore. And that's just because I get in touch with this thing. And I know this about me. And I never really talked about this with other artists. So this is just me personally. I believe that when there are moments in our lives as artists where we get in touch with something otherworldly, and that is when the veil between me and my muse is thin. It's like the Halloween of artists. I was out before I started recording this video. I went out for a run. I came home, I showered, I got dressed and hit record. While I was out for a run, I stopped. I had to stop at a stoplight, and while I was stopped, Pink's Trust Fall was playing, and I just allowed myself to get lost in that song, and all of a sudden, and this has happened to me on a number of occasions, all of a sudden I felt like I was outside of my body, like I was a drone flying around looking at myself, and I was experiencing this moment, and I knew that I had tapped into that place where I think that my art really exists, and it's like my soul. And my wife's coming in, so there's going to be a big bonky bonk upstairs. There she is. And so when I tap into that, it's like nothing you can. I can't. I'm lost for words, because it's this energy that just, it's like a fountain of creative energy that just explodes. But it's not like, it doesn't like lift you. It engulfs you. And when this happens, I feel like I'm on some other plane of existence. And that's when my muse is just right there. And we're just eye to eye. And I could say, okay, what do you have for me today? And it's just, that veil just drops. And there is nothing separating me, the person, from my creativity. And when I come out of that, it is joy. It's like the best high. And that's not coming from a place of sorrow. And I've had my absolute best ideas come from those moments. So I firmly believe that great art does not have to come from a place of sorrow. Great art can come from joy. Great art can come from feeling absolutely nothing. It's just about connecting to truth and to that thing inside of you that allows you to create. And when you can do that, you can create great art. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes being open to that sort of thing. Being open to yourself and to your truth and to that energy. Once you tap into that, you're working with something special. Anyway, that's all I've got today. Thank you so very much for spending a little bit of time with me. I hope I've helped you through something. I maybe entertained you. I don't know. I just hope you got something out of this. Anyway, thank you so very much. And I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.